What if I told you your entire life could shift in just 60 minutes? Not by luck, not by motivation, but by one single decision you are avoiding right now. Most people don't fail because they lack time. They fail because they waste moments that could have changed everything. And today, in the next few minutes, you will either continue your old life or step into a completely new way of thinking. Every successful life begins with a mental switch. Not a big opportunity, not perfect conditions, not support. It begins when a person decides, I will no longer think like everyone else. Because average thinking creates average results. But different thinking creates a different destiny. Right now, you are not stuck in your life. You are stuck in your thinking pattern. And if thinking created your current life, then thinking can also destroy it and rebuild it. People often walk through life believing that their biggest problem is time. They say they don't have enough hours in a day, that life is too busy, that responsibilities are too heavy, and that if they just had a little more time, everything would finally fall into place. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Time is not the problem because time is distributed equally to everyone. Every single person wakes up with the same 24 hours. The difference is never in the availability of time. It is always in the direction of attention. Where your mind goes is where your life goes. If you observe closely, you will see that most people are not actually short on time. They are deeply scattered. They wake up and immediately surrender their attention to noise, to distractions, to habits that give comfort but take away progress. Hours disappear not because life is demanding too much, but because focus is being divided into too many unnecessary directions. A person can sit for 3 hours on a phone without realizing it, but struggle to spend 30 minutes learning something that could change their future. That is not a time issue. That is a focus issue. Focus is like a silent currency. You spend it on whatever you give attention to, and it silently builds the shape of your life. If your focus goes into growth, learning, and action, your life expands in that direction. If your focus goes into distraction, comparison, and delay, your life shrinks into confusion. And the most dangerous part is that focus does not feel like it is being wasted in the moment. It feels harmless, even justified. But slowly it creates distance between who you are and who you could become. The reason successful people seem to achieve more in the same amount of time is not because they are rushing or working endlessly without rest. It is because they have trained their mind to guard attention. They understand that energy follows focus. When focus is sharp, even small actions produce big results. When focus is scattered, even big efforts produce nothing meaningful. If you want to change your life, you don't need more time. You need a new relationship with your attention. You need to decide what deserves your mind and what does not. Because every time you say yes to something meaningless, you are silently saying no to something meaningful. And those small decisions repeated daily quietly design your future long before you realize it. Most people live their entire lives waiting for something to happen before they act. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the right connection, better resources, or a clearer sign that it is time to begin. This waiting feels safe because it removes responsibility in the present moment. But in reality, it slowly becomes a trap. Because while they are waiting for opportunity, life is moving forward without them. Opportunity is often misunderstood as something rare that arrives suddenly, fully formed, and easy to recognize. But in truth, opportunity rarely looks impressive at the beginning. It usually appears ordinary, even uncomfortable, sometimes hidden inside problems that people avoid. The mistake most people make is that they expect opportunity to announce itself. When it doesn't look exciting enough, they ignore it. When it requires effort, they delay it. And when it demands uncertainty, they reject it. But the people who move ahead in life see things differently. They do not wait for opportunity to appear. They create conditions where opportunity has no choice but to emerge. They start with what they have, not what they wish for. They take small actions that seem insignificant at first, but those actions slowly build direction. And direction is what eventually attracts opportunity. Every skill you develop, every problem you solve, every effort you repeat is like planting something invisible. At first, nothing seems to happen. No reward, no recognition, no clear result. But underneath the surface, something is forming. And one day, when the conditions are right, that effort suddenly transforms into something bigger than expected. That is how opportunity actually works. It is not found, it is built over time, through consistency. The biggest illusion that holds people back is the belief that they are waiting for the right moment. But there is no such moment arriving from outside. The right moment is created when preparation meets action. If you are not building anything today, you will have nothing for opportunity to attach itself to tomorrow. Even small efforts, when repeated, begin to shift your position in life. A skill learned today becomes a tool tomorrow. A conversation started today becomes a connection later. A failure experienced today becomes understanding in the future. Nothing is wasted if you are moving forward. So the real question is never when will opportunity come. The real question is what am I building so opportunity recognizes me when it appears? Because life does not reward those who wait. It responds to those who move first, even when everything feels uncertain. Most people are trained to fear failure as if it is a signal that something is wrong with them. From a young age, mistakes are often treated as something to avoid instead of something to understand. So when people grow up, they carry this silent pressure that failure means the end of progress. The moment something goes wrong, they assume they are not capable, not smart enough, or not meant for it. And because of this belief, they stop far too early, right at the moment where growth actually begins. But failure is not a verdict. It is not a final judgment on your ability or your future. It is simply information. It shows you what did not work, not what you are incapable of doing. Every failure carries a message, but most people are too emotional in the moment to read it. Instead of analyzing it, they attach meaning to it. Instead of learning from it, they label themselves with it. And once that label forms, it becomes harder to move forward. If you look closely at any successful person, you will not find a story without failure. What you will find is a pattern of repetition, adjustment, and persistence. They did not avoid mistakes, they studied them. They did not run away from wrong turns, they corrected their direction. Each failure became a reference point for improvement. Over time, those small corrections created mastery. The difference is not that successful people fail less. The difference is that they respond differently to failure. Where others see rejection, they see redirection. Where others see loss, they see learning. Where others see an ending, they see a signal to try again in a better way. This shift in perception is what separates those who stay stuck from those who evolve. Failure also removes illusion. It exposes weak plans, incomplete thinking, and unrealistic assumptions. While it may feel uncomfortable, it is one of the most honest teachers in life. Success can sometimes mislead you into thinking everything is correct, but failure forces clarity. It shows you what must change if you want to move forward. The real danger is not failure itself, but stopping because of it. Because every time you quit, you remove the possibility of discovering what would have worked next. Progress does not require perfection. It requires continuation. Even mistakes, when repeated with awareness, turn into understanding. And understanding is what eventually leads to success. So failure should never be seen as a signal to stop. It should be seen as a signal to adjust, to improve, and to try again with better awareness than before. Most people believe transformation happens through one big decision, one powerful moment, or one dramatic change. They imagine a sudden shift where everything becomes different overnight, but real change does not work that way. Life is not shaped by rare, extraordinary actions. It is shaped by ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. What you do daily, even in small amounts, has far more power than what you do occasionally with great intensity. Small actions seem unimportant in the moment because their impact is not immediately visible. Reading one page does not feel like progress. Learning one small skill does not feel life-changing. Making one better choice does not feel significant. But the mind often misjudges progress because it only recognizes visible results, not invisible accumulation. And this is where most people lose patience. They stop because they cannot see immediate change, not realizing that change was already quietly forming underneath. Every habit you repeat is a vote for the person you are becoming. If your daily actions are careless, distracted, and inconsistent, they slowly build a life of confusion and delay. If your daily actions are focused, intentional, and disciplined, they quietly build a life of growth and direction. The direction of your life is not decided in one moment. It is decided in thousands of small moments that you often overlook. The real power of small actions is in their repetition. One action alone is weak, but repeated actions become strong. A single drop of water means nothing, but constant drops can shape stone over time. In the same way, your life is shaped not by intensity, but by consistency. People often underestimate what they can achieve in a year and overestimate what they can achieve in a day. Because true progress is slow at the beginning, but powerful in accumulation. Discipline is not about doing everything at once. It is about doing something small every day, even when motivation disappears. Motivation is temporary, but repetition builds structure, and structure creates results that motivation alone can never sustain. The challenge is not starting big, but continuing small actions when they feel meaningless. That is where most people quit. But those who understand the power of small steps continue even when results are not visible. They trust the process of accumulation more than the illusion of speed. Over time, these small repeated actions become identity. You no longer just do them, you become someone who naturally lives that way. And once identity changes, results no longer feel forced. They become a natural outcome of how you live every day. Most people spend their entire lives thinking their biggest competition is outside of them. They compare themselves with others, measure their progress against someone else's achievements, and constantly feel pressure from what others are doing. But the real battle is never happening outside. The real battle is happening silently inside the mind, in the form of thoughts that either push you forward or hold you back. There is always a voice inside every person. One voice encourages movement, learning, and effort. Another voice creates doubt, delay, and fear. The direction of your life depends on which voice you listen to more often. Most people do not realize that their internal dialogue becomes their external reality. The way you speak to yourself in private eventually becomes the way your life responds to you in public. When you repeatedly tell yourself that something is difficult, your mind begins to accept it as truth. When you constantly delay action, your mind learns that comfort is more important than growth. And when you avoid challenges, your mind starts to believe that discomfort is something to escape instead of something to grow through. Slowly, these patterns become invisible habits of thinking that shape your entire behavior. The strongest limitation in life is not a lack of ability, but a lack of control over internal conversation. A person may have talent, resources, and opportunity, but if the mind constantly creates doubt, that person will never fully use what they have. On the other hand, someone with limited resources but a strong internal mindset can push beyond conditions that seem impossible. Winning in life is not about eliminating fear completely. Fear will always exist in some form. The difference is whether fear is allowed to make decisions for you or simply acknowledged and moved through. The mind can either become a tool for progress or a barrier to it. And the difference is built in daily self-talk, in the moments when no one else is listening. The internal voice can be trained, just like any habit. Thinking patterns can be reshaped through repetition. When you consistently choose action over hesitation, the voice of doubt weakens. When you consistently challenge excuses with effort, the voice of limitation loses strength. Over time, the dominant voice becomes the one that supports growth instead of blocking it. Most people try to change their life by changing external circumstances first, but real change begins inside. When your internal dialogue improves, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your actions improve. And when your actions improve, everything around you begins to shift naturally. Most people live their lives trapped inside short-term thinking. They focus on what feels good right now, what brings comfort today, and what gives instant satisfaction without considering what it will cost them later. This way of thinking feels natural because the human mind is designed to seek immediate reward. But what feels natural is not always what leads to a meaningful life. Short-term thinking gives quick comfort but long-term consequences. When someone only thinks about fast results, they tend to avoid difficult choices. They choose what is easy over what is important. They delay effort because effort feels uncomfortable in the moment. And they prioritize pleasure over progress because progress does not always provide instant reward. Over time, these small decisions accumulate and create a life that feels stuck, even though it was built through repeated choices. Long-term thinking is different because it requires patience in a world that constantly demands speed. It means being willing to sacrifice immediate comfort for future strength. It means understanding that what you build slowly will often last longer than what you build quickly. Real growth is not visible in the beginning. It develops quietly, almost invisibly, until one day it becomes undeniable. People who think long-term do not get distracted by temporary trends or emotional impulses. They understand that success is not a single moment, but a process. Every decision they make is guided by one question: what will this lead to in the future? This simple shift changes everything. It removes unnecessary actions and replaces them with intentional direction. Short-term thinkers often chase results that look impressive, but do not last. Long-term thinkers focus on building something that continues to grow even when they are not constantly pushing it. This is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation fades quickly, but long-term vision keeps you steady when motivation disappears. Sacrifice is a natural part of long-term thinking. It means saying no to things that feel enjoyable now, but have no real value later. It means staying consistent when results are not visible. It means continuing even when others stop because they want faster outcomes. And over time, this patience becomes a powerful advantage. The irony is that those who are willing to wait often reach success faster in the long run, because while others are constantly restarting, they are building continuously. While others are distracted by short rewards, they are accumulating long-term value. Thinking long-term is not about delaying happiness. It is about choosing deeper, more stable success over temporary satisfaction. It is about understanding that the life you want is not created in moments of excitement, but in years of consistent direction. In the next 60 minutes, nothing outside your world may change. But if your thinking changes, your actions will change. And if your actions change, your entire life will follow. The question is not, can your life change? The question is, will you allow your thinking to change first?